Hello, everyone, and welcome to the June 2025 episode of Voices of CFMA, Construction Financial Management Association's podcast featuring conversations with industry leaders, sponsored by Bangert. I'm your host, Sal Marino, CFMA's Director of Communications and the Managing Editor for CFMA Building Profits magazine. In this month's episode, I'm joined by CFMA's 2025-26 Chair, Jennifer Murphy, and CFMA's 2025-26 Vice Chair, John Moran, for a candid conversation about what it really means to create a culture of inclusion. We're not necessarily talking about check the box initiatives, but more about what it takes to make people feel like they belong, how leaders set the tone, and why inclusion is essential for collaboration, innovation, and growth across our industry. Whether you're leading a team or just finding your voice, this episode offers insight into building stronger, more connected workplaces, one conversation at a time. Jennifer, John, welcome to Voices of CFMA. Why don't you both introduce yourselves to the podcast audience?
All right, I'm Jennifer Murphy. I'm the CFO at Plume Service Company. We're a commercial mechanical contractor in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Been with the company almost 16 years. We're an ESOP, and I'm this year's National CFMA Chair.
John Moran. I am the CFO of WR Newman. We are a general contractor out of Nashville, Tennessee. I've been with them right at 15 years now, and I am this year's vice chair of CFMA.
Excellent. Thank you. So let's start with your roles. Jennifer, as the chair, and John, you're stepping into that role next year. Is there something that you've each learned about CFMA's membership or mission that shaped how you want to lead?
Um, yeah, I think for me, and what CFMA has done for me personally and the growth I've experienced, professionally, personally, because people were willing to welcome me, be friendly, talk to me, when I was very much not, that wasn't comfortable in those situations. And so for me, I looked the same way of I want to make sure that people that are new to CFMA find those connections, those friends, those people that will end up helping them find paths that lead to help them grow personally and professionally.
Yeah, I mean, I think from my standpoint is building your network, and while CFMA has a great library of resources with education and stuff, just the individual members that are out there, I can't tell you how many I've reached out to over the years if we're hitting a new market or the trade. So you never know when you're going to meet somebody at a conference or just in your chapter, wherever, that you're going to rely on or have a question and be able to go and ask them something. So to me, it's just the network of the membership. So key.
Awesome. Now, for both of you, what about a moment in your CFMA journey that stands out as pivotal?
Boy, I mean, I've had a really tight chapter group of us for a long time. We've talked about our roundtables we do. So I have some people I've 7, 8, 9 years that I meet with monthly. But, as I've shared this past fall when I had, medical situation, I mean, I happened that week of all places to have two of my CFMA friends from that lived in North Carolina and Florida that happened to be at my house that week for different reasons. And they were some of the first people, I was able to turn to for support. So it became much more than just CFMA.
I mean, I think it goes back to, uh, like Jennifer said, the chapter. We've got a group of us that we do a lot with, and we're constantly at everything. So now we've traveled outside of CFMA. I mean, the friendships have forged further, even gone to the point of doing the regionals, and some of those friendships that have grown over that have, forged into stuff that happens outside of CFMA. So the friendships are made are really key, like she says.
Well, they'll tell you you'll surround yourself, your friends are people that tend to not necessarily be just exactly like you, but it's common interest in that. And so all of us, if you think about CFMA and why we're in it, we started out with a common, probably business interest. But then as you get to know people and you're like, wow, we actually have a lot of in common outside of here. And you get to know families, and to your whole point, it becomes um, much more than just an association where I go to get my education and my CPE about, construction finance. So
John, you recently did a Hey CFMA video, and it emphasized the difference between dialogue and debate. Has that idea shown up in your leadership style?
As we talking the inclusivity of the groups and everything, sitting back and listening and getting everybody's opinion opposed to being opinionated has really uh, resonated with me over the years or the last year, for sure. And hearing, just how people approach things differently, has definitely changed things in how I in work, make sure I listen to everyone's situation first and then maybe give some opinion there, without trying to dialogue or I guess, get defensive quickly and try to get your opinion across. So, I mean, I think the emphasis on listening and has really helped instead of just trying to debate everything and trying to get that one up.
They talk about, I've read, I can't remember where I read it, but they talk about a good leader shows their own vulnerability. And so I think along where John's going along that, um, I remember some of my early exec and watching the officers and knowing they had thoughts and opinions, but making sure that everyone else talked before they did to make sure that they didn't override anyone's, opinions or thoughts and everyone got heard. And um, to John's point, I mean, I've gone into more than one exec where I thought I was decided on an issue until I listened to all the other points, and I may have done a complete 180 and been like, "Wow, you would have never told me I'd have been there
Right.
when I first saw the issue or we talked about it." And I ended up completely changing my thoughts and where I ended up my stance on a situation.
100% agree. Like the brain power that you get out of an exec meeting with CFMA, but then you look at not just the exec members, but all the members. I mean, exec's just a small portion of what CFMA is. You can have a conversation with a big group of CFMA members, no matter where they are. And I think you get that, the power of what just listening to everybody really helps out.
Yep. All great points. Jennifer, your leadership journey has intersected with different identities and perspectives. How do you think CFMA can continue creating spaces where all members feel like they belong?
I think that it really is making sure that CFMA, as we look at who we are as an organization and what we offer our members, we talk a lot about, I always say at work, some people want to read the newsletter, some want to read an email, some got to hear it in person. And when I look at our membership, some just need the education, some want the CPE, some want the peer groups, some want the networking and the volunteer, and some want, other things. And so I think for us as an organization to make sure we're listening so that we're an organization for everyone. And that we also, kind of what we've talked about here is we continue um, to learn. I mean, we are open to learning, everyone in the organization. And so I think, I've learned a lot in the last couple of years and, learned of my own biases or how I've addressed situations that maybe made someone else feel a certain way and I didn't have that intention at all. And so I think that we as an organization, as long as we continue to grow that way, we become better for everyone because everyone can find a place where they're getting what they need.
Yeah, that point about listening and actually learning from what we hear, right? It's such a big part of all of this. It's one thing to open the door, but it's another to grow from the conversations happening inside. So, with that in mind, both of you have worked closely with past and present CFMA leaders. What does inclusive leadership look like to you? But not in a checkbox way, it's sort of an actual work of leading people way.
I mean, I think that again, I think there's so many different personalities and there's like Jennifer kind of mentioned there, what people get out of the organization. Uh, so as we look at, you know, different leaders, somebody might have peer groups head on their mind, or somebody might have technology or whatever. And it seems like as you listen to the different people, man, there's just so many sharp folks that, they may have a different way of how they're wanting to, or what they're wanting to get out of CFMA. So it just kind of, you just got to sit back and listen to them and be willing to listen. I mean, you might have somebody that's uh, big in technology, or somebody big in peer groups, or somebody that's on tax and legislative. Like you never know, but what they get out and what they want out of it, you got to just listen to everybody's opinion and see where they come, because everybody's a little different in life,
Yeah.
and you never know what their background is and what shaped them.
Yeah, I think, when I look back at some of the past leaders, same thing. John, every leader kind of has things that maybe they're a little more passionate about than others, but how they handle things, like I said, a lot of leaders always sitting back and hearing everyone's opinion. And, I mean, I'll always, Pam Hepburn years and years ago said that we need to be courageous leaders, which means we're okay having uncomfortable conversations. And if that means it doesn't matter if we're uncomfortable, other people are, but we have to have those uncomfortable conversations in a safe, careful way. But so that's how we're going to move forward. And that's how we're going to, we're all going to grow as people. Because if we always avoid anything we don't like or we're uncomfortable with, we just keep avoiding it. And nothing ever, you don't grow as a person and we don't grow as an organization.
I love that. The idea that we don't grow unless we're really listening. And I think sometimes those moments can surprise us or even shift how we see things. So on that note, have there been times when your perspective or maybe someone else's perspective shifted simply because you took the time to listen?
Boy, lots of times, I think, lots of times. I mean, um, but you know, just hearing different perspectives or hearing different feelings, why someone maybe is so passionate about the way they feel or what's behind it, and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that happened. And now I still may not agree or disagree, but all of a sudden you start to go, now I know why they're coming from that perspective, or maybe why they see that way, or and so I just think that I myself have learned because I mean, I'm an Irish. I'm quick, can be quick tempered, quick to judgment, quick to move on, ready to go. And just learning to slow down and really make sure hearing things and not just in CFMA, even at my office, as my staff turns over and you start getting um, younger people who, I mean, the speaker at National, I mean, I sat there going, oh my gosh, I can't be upset with all the things that drive me nuts about my younger staff now because we made them that way. And so now I've got to go, how can I change to coach and mentor and make sure I'm helping them be set up for success in the way they're made up. And so I just think that, a lot of that has really helped, change my perspective on how I do things.
Yeah, the one that most recently, the unpresent bias that you get for stuff, and like you don't think about not being inclusive group, and this kind of got brought up as like if someone's new at a meeting, are you considered inclusive and warm and welcoming? But you walk into a meeting and you're seeing your CFMA pals, that you haven't seen in a month or so, and you go and talk to them. Well, now you seem like you're standoffish because you're over talking to this group and you're not including other people. So it's, you know, realizing that that's how it looks when really you're just meeting up with old friends. So then you got to think, okay, well, maybe I need to take that conversation outside of it and really try to work on opening yourself to making sure you don't look closed off, in those for the new people, or people in CFMA for the first. And next thing you know, they'll be the ones that you'll go up to a year from now and you'll be catching up with them.
Exactly. And then the process starts all over again. There's someone else that you have
Exactly.
to let in, and it's a never
Exactly.
ending cycle, but that's how you do it.
And we really are having some of that turnover. I mean, as we talked about, it seemed like there were a lot of new faces at conference. I know our chapter membership has been growing, and we just had our 35th anniversary, and a couple of the long time members that are close to retiring said, I didn't know any of the people at our 35th anniversary. I don't know all these new members, which is awesome, but we're starting to see some of that. I call it turnover, but you know what I mean? We're starting to see some new people enter the association and the industry. And so now we've got to make sure they can feel what we all felt, that we're still doing this how many years later and we're so engaged and so involved in it. So
Yeah, I think you can really feel that shift happening. And I think it's bringing, a broader picture of who our members really are in the organization. And with that in mind, what's something about CFMA members that people outside the organization might not understand or expect?
I think probably one of the things people don't understand is that, and John hit on it a little bit, like you can call anyone and they will help you. You can call your competitor, your CFO at a competitor, and you guys are, every one of us wants our other friends and peers in CFMA to succeed and their companies to succeed. And so it is, I think it's very strange how willing, to John's point, you can call anyone and they will help you. And you watch at events and you watch fellow insurance companies talking how they can what they can both do to be better for their clients or surety. And so this industry is the people in it are passionate about the industry and making the industry grow and making CFMA. And so I think that a lot of people outside would probably be really shocked how I always feel like there's just no barriers to helping each other and protecting, like my company, my clients. And there probably is some, but I just don't ever see it.
I mean, the construction industry is just different, I mean, how you account for things is different. I mean, everything about construction is just different that, uh, you know, if you're in a manufacturing world and building a widget, it's not the same as what we deal with in, day out. And, like Jennifer said, and it's been said, is the people are willing to pitch in and help out and answer and, you know, try to help you out along the ways because somebody will have some situation that's very similar to it and willing to help out.
Yeah, I was talking to a photographer at the conference in Kissimmee last month, and one of the things that he was talking about was that he does a lot of the conferences. He's always at a different event shooting, and he was just mentioning to me about how great the energy was here, and he doesn't see it very often, and that our members are very engaged, and he was having conversations and all of this stuff. So, what do you hope people feel when they walk into a CFMA event for the first time, especially if you're, let's say, not sure you belong yet?
Uh, well, we all need to make sure we say hi to them. No, not just go to our clicks in our group. No, I think you kind of just hit on it though, Sal, like with what the photographer said. I mean, the energy, the passion, the friendships, I want when they walk in, like, is this a place I want to be? And so you want to be welcoming to them, but you also want them to see that, my gosh, look at the energy. I mean, if the first time attendees at the conference, the energy that was around that, and seeing all the people posing for pictures and laughing and hugging and oh my gosh, I haven't seen you. And so that offers a sense of belonging. Like initially, I'm sure they're like, wow, I'm not part of that, but it doesn't take long as long as we're being very conscious of making sure we welcome them, that they're going to be part of that and be able to start just, feeling that.
Yeah, I go back to my first conference in Orlando, 2012, I think it was, and walking in and all these people hugging and just thought it was so weird. And it was like, what is going on? And then, of course, now you look and it's like, oh man, I'm that person. Like, it's like you see all these friends and stuff like that. And I mean, you can't wait. And so when you talk to people, I mean, I talked to several people that were first time attendees, and I was like, man, this is what it's like. I mean, it's you get excited to come to it. And the other thing is give back. Like this industry takes a lot from us, but if you give back to it, like you can get so much more out of it than just sitting back and thinking it's going to come to you. I mean, volunteer for something and, that just starts the ball rolling. You never know where it's going to end.
All right. Well, I know we're coming up to the end of our time, so I'm going to leave you with one more question for both of you. Finish this sentence. In the next year, I hope CFMA will blank.
For me, I hope it will welcome many new members, along with obviously retaining our current, but where those new members find that place they belong and they find the opportunities to get what they need from this organization. And I hope that, that's where CFMA is offering the things they need, and we're there with open arms, no matter where they live, where they come from, what their beliefs, what their thoughts, what they look like, all of that doesn't matter. We're in this industry together and we're in it, together.
Say very similar. I think, that everybody gets out of their membership what they need or what they feel like they're seeking, almost to the point though that they want to get back to it. That they got something so valuable that they feel like they should help out and try to contribute so somebody else can feel that down the road. Because not a single education course we have, single event doesn't go on without the volunteers that do it. And so somebody years ago had to get a feeling from within CFMA that they wanted to start volunteering. So to continue building that volunteer base, I think would be amazing.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, John, for joining me today. And thank you all for listening to another episode of Voices of CFMA, sponsored by Bangert. If you enjoyed this podcast, don't forget to like and subscribe and share it on social media. And if you're interested in learning more about the Construction Financial Management Association, check out cfma.org. Once again, I'm your host, Sal Marino, and I will see everyone back here next month. Thanks.